All right, so tonight, KTN can authoritatively report that the government might have lost billions of shillings to corrupt individuals in the much-decorated NYS transformation project. The money being held in trust by law firms, others in hands of powerful people, has been siphoned out of the government coffers using the much-praised and talked about IFMIS financial system. KTN's Dennis Onsarigo has spoken to two Ministry of Devolution officers who say the much-talked about 791 million shillings theft is a drop in the ocean.
The story of Josephine Kabura, a city hairdresser, is now caught up in a multi-million shilling saga, shocked the nation, already reeling from the horror stories of corruption at the Ministry of Devolution. Her explosive affidavit quickly turned the once powerful Cabinet Secretary NYS from a powerful witness to a prime suspect in the 791 million shilling scandal. But now it appears Kabura's story was only the tip of the iceberg. Exit Josephine Kabura, enter Jane Wangeshi. Jane, who was a supply chain management assistant, in her first television interview says she was at the center of the Kibera slum upgrading project.
Okay, we did not have something concrete that we were going to do one thing because we were given like now a blank sheet. When we go to Kibera, you are going to do slum upgrading. But in that slum upgrading, we did not have specifically what we were to do because initially we started by cleaning and then we came up with now the ablution blocks.
Jane first broke her silence last month when in an interview with our sister newspaper, The Standard, she claimed that officers from the banking fraud unit stole more than 130 million shillings. Jane says the workload at the Kibera upgrading project was a huge undertaking. The Kibera project quickly became the very symbol of a new look National Youth Service.
Is that we were working for 24 hours. As a human being, you cannot work for 24 hours continuously in 7 days a week.
And the Cabinet Secretary routinely led high-profile tours of the alley of the slum that were now being transformed into more livable neighborhoods. But behind the pomp, Jane claims unseen hands were working round the clock to make a killing.
Some people who are not civil servants, and I remember on 3 occasions when they came to me directly, some of them they wanted to be working with me where I was working, and then I told them we cannot work where I was, for one because of the regulations, the government regulations. These people are interfering because they were saying that we don't have time, they want the goods to be delivered to the user directly. So you see now when things go direct, you don't see them, you don't receive them, and now you cannot account for them.
Further, some goods were paid for without a quantity or quality check, according to the former NYS officer.
In Kibera, I was receiving materials being delivered by NYS lorries. So from the CS office, they are the ones who are alleging and they are the ones who made that possible. They are the ones who allocated those lorries to be coming to Kibera now on behalf of the supplier. And my division, they did not have the number plates, so
KTN has now learned that most of the goods delivered to the slum were overpriced. For instance, the National Youth Service bought 3,000 jembes at a cost of 2.7 million shillings when the market price was 1.3 million shillings. A ream of photocopying papers was sold at 1,200 shillings, nearly 3 times the market price of just 420 shillings. Slashers used to open up trenches were acquired at a cost of 400 shillings when the slashers in the market went for about 200 shillings. Then came the news of an attempted theft of 800 million shillings.
When Mr. Haraki claimed that his password was stolen, we wrote the statements, and then later our computers were taken. They went for forensic auditing, and then we were told later that nothing wrong was found on our computers, but they were never brought back.
Those out to steal the money first made it appear as if the password had been stolen. But KTN News can authoritatively report that the attempted stealing of the Deputy NYS Director's password was a ploy to cover up an irregular payment of 595 million shillings paid out to suppliers associated with senior Ministry of Devolution officials.
There was a conspiracy to defraud NYS 695,400,000 in respect of committed disputed transactions.
At the initial stages, when whatever you key in, you cannot come back later and try to change or to alter, or somebody else cannot come and alter what you did initially with the IFMI system.
In fact, a key reason for the introduction of the IFMIs was to minimize cases of corruption. To cover up a likely backlash from junior staff members forced to endorse the 595 million shillings, senior ministry officials came up with a plan. The ministry announced a password had been stolen and there were attempts to steal 800 million shillings. For the first time, a senior finance officer in the Ministry of Devolution has told KTN News that the public was cheated into believing there was an attempted stealing of the password, but the officer who asked us to conceal his identity says, in actual effect, money had already been stolen.
Now, the payment has 25 stages. By the time I was at that end, we do it up to 14 stages. And then the remaining stages up to 25 is at the ministry. So when somebody now initiates that document, it goes now to Halake. And it's Halake now to approve, and then now the payment continues. So this is the time when now he says, instead of it being sent to him to approve, somebody used the password to approve on behalf. That's where now the battle was.
Yeah, he came up and said, somebody, he checks in the system. If it's like I was telling you, I think he logged in and he realized payments had been done, and then he called for a printout. In fact, he went to the ministry.
The official says there was genuine work done by the Ministry of Devolution until what he calls interference from outsiders began to threaten a multi-billion shillings budget.
To call them, they're coming from the big office. You guys pay. Pressure is mounting. And then, have they delivered everything? So if not, say, they haven't fully delivered. If the same people can be urged to fully deliver, they will pay.
The finance officer says the first time they encountered pressure from their superiors was when they were forced to process fast payments amounting to more than 595 million shillings.
Now, the issue of the stolen password actually came as a result of, people refusing to endorse in accounts, procurements. They refused to endorse. And as a result, that caused mass transfers of officers in those respective accounts for refusing to play ball to the stolen password when that payment was about to be put into the system to go through payment. Now, the documents have got to be there. This time there were no documents. So the issue of now using a password to facilitate the payment, and you need to see hard copies which were not there. So, you'll wonder, why? What am I going to do?
KTN News has now learned that the password was not stolen, but indeed the 595 million shillings had already been approved for payment. Junior staff members were only being forced to rubber stamp the payments by entering their details in the system without proper paperwork.
Sometimes last year, the CS wrote a memo to us, NYS, and she instructed us that anything beyond 2 million, we cannot do it at the NYS headquarters. So anything that was, which reached that mark 2 million, was being done by the MTC. MTC, it was at Treasury.
Insiders believe the question of the stolen password was meant to divert attention from the colossal amount of money already reflecting in the IFMI system network. Then came the 791 million shilling scandal. 21 Ministry of Devolution and National Youth Service officials were suspended after police investigations. The investigation was ordered by the then CS Anwai Guru, who claimed she had blown the cover of corrupt senior and junior staff members working in our ministry. Junior staff members suspended over the attempted theft of the 800 million shillings have told KTN News they had nothing to do with the scandal. They claim they were the perfect victims of a deep-running corruption scheme.
24 billion, 18 was for infrastructure, wages for the community youth, and the remaining, which is around around seven there, it was for the recurrent issues. So that particular time, before this issue was now going to explode, we had actually cleared almost a third of that amount, three quarters of that amount. Yeah.
Layman's language, how much is that?
Layman's language, can you say 12? Around there, 12 billion. 12 billion.
The finance officer told KTN News the focus should now move from the 791 million shillings to billions of shillings that he says have been paid out in the past. Investigations by KTN indicate millions of shillings have been paid out to several people under dubious transactions in the past. It is unclear what the fresh round of investigations by the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission will unearth, but it appears getting to the bottom of the 791 million shilling scandal may only be a first step. Many billions of shillings may yet be out there in the pockets of numerous faceless actors. Dennis Onsarigo, KTN News.